Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our third webinar for Move Well, Work Well Week for 2026, called Wellness at Work. 2025, sorry, my gracious, I'm getting ahead of myself. I am Deanne Felton-Scott. I'm an OSH educational consultant here at Workplace NL. And joined today by Cheryl Osborne. Cheryl is our MSI advisor extraordinaire. Cheryl is our in-house expert on anything that's related to MSI prevention. So everybody who's here this morning is in for a real treat. So today, this week, I guess, the focus of the webinars is that we're really looking at the connection between MSIs, musculoskeletal injuries, and our psychological health and how we react to stress in our daily lives and where we carry that stress. For somebody who has an MSI, and I've been managing one now since a very long time, really since 2020, I can tell you right now that when my stress level is at its peak, that's when the pain, the chronic pain that I feel, is at its peak as well. So anyway, let's just move ahead. So today at 10:30, Cheryl is going to be bringing us through a micro break because that's something that we encourage everybody throughout their workday to participate in. It's just a nice way to kind of, step away from what you're doing, get the blood flowing through your veins, through your body, as well as being able to reset your brain and your thinking. We are going to be doing questions at the end of the webinar today, so please put your questions, in the chat box, and at the end, myself and or Cheryl, we will answer those questions. We're also going to be, as soon as the webinar is done, you're going to be automatically sent an evaluation. So please give us some feedback on how you enjoyed the sessions today, whether you learned anything, and what you'd like to see coming up, because we are planning some sessions for next year as well. So today, I'm going to start with just an introduction to the 8 basic wellness tips that we can all do as part of our workday. Between Cheryl and I, we're going to be describing each one of these. We're also going to be going over some practical daily activities to help you I guess, not just meet, but as well as maintain those activities that we do on a daily basis. And then at the end, I'm just going to review some provincial resources in mental health care that are available to all Newfoundland and Labradorians. So let's just start with this graphic. So when we look at this graphic, we can see that everything is linked. It's all interrelated. So we really can't do one without impacting the other. I've touched on my journey and what I have been experiencing in my life. I know that physical factors at work can affect the psychosocial factors at work. It can affect stress, and it can also exacerbate any MSI that you are managing. And psychosocial factors as well can have an impact on the physical factors at work, and as well as on our stress. And we also know as well that stress can cause MSIs. Just think about a day that you've had at work where you felt stressed. How did your body feel at the end of the day? I know for me, I have very little energy. Sometimes I have headaches. Sometimes I have body aches. And how do I feel when I've had a good day at work? you know, when I'm able to manage my work, when I'm taking my breaks and my micro breaks, I feel much lighter. I feel that I'm able to continue the rest of my life after work. So now these are the 8 wellness tips that we're going to be covering today. So, number 1, prioritize movement. Number 2, incorporate mindfulness. Number 3, pay attention to how you set your work up. Nutrition and healthy eating habits play a critical role in how we feel on a daily basis. Ways that we can manage our stress and effectively manage them with healthy, productive ways. Sleep is really important as well. And we're going to look at ways that we can help manage our sleep. Reaching out and seeking support when needed, as well as for employers that are listening, and as well, I guess, for anybody really, building that supportive work environment. So I'm going to move on to Cheryl now, and she's going to give us a nice overview of movement and how we prioritize that movement.
Okay, thanks, Deanne. Yeah, so when you think about movement and you think about our jobs, we all have different jobs and do different things at work. Some of us are quite sedentary. Some of us are quite physical on the job. And so we may be getting a lot more movement throughout our workday, whereas others not much at all. So the reality is, no matter what our work is, the body keeps a score, and the body requires movement. We are built to move. It's fundamental for every aspect of our life, and for all things health and wellness, essentially.
Absolutely.
So it's widely recognized that physical activity is essential for thriving in life in regards to, it improves our physical fitness and that sort of thing, our cardiovascular health. But what is less recognized, I feel, is the importance of just bodily movement, period. The benefits of the micro breaks, just being able to do a couple of stretches, to get up from your desk and walk a few steps, walk to the washroom, or go fill up a water. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think we really understand the importance and the health benefits of just movement, period. Nothing particularly strenuous, right? It's important for allowing us to properly or giving us good circulation through the body. The blood flows and then oxygenates our muscles.
Mm-hmm.
It supports our metabolism, and there's many other functions. Low levels of movement, though, it is associated with blood clots, actually, deep vein thrombosis. Even we see that in, not always, but when you think about in the office environment, I think that's where a lot of people tend to sit. They plant their body in a chair. When
for
they
4 hours.
Yeah, and maybe longer. They're just totally focused on the task at hand and aren't moving at all, right? Frozen joints, cartilage degeneration, impaired digestion, metabolic disease, even skin problems is associated with lack of movement, believe it or not. But on the contrary, if we are moving often, then that facilitates weight control, and that reduces strain on our joints, right? When you think about from a musculoskeletal perspective, and it reduces strain on the cardiovascular system too. It facilitates proper growth and maturation and development of immune function, and also our mental health, our psychological attention. And if we don't get enough movement, then those things degrade, right? So, and when you really think about it, even when we sleep, we're moving around, right? We move around in bed. The body just requires movement. And if we're not able to move because we're just physically, dealing with illnesses or aging or whatever, the body still has to move frequently. So that's where nurses come in then, right? And they have to physically move a person to prevent pressure sores and that sort of stuff. So as you can imagine, movement is it's really as vital as food, as water, as air, sleep, shelter, It is a basic need, essentially. So for people that are pretty sedentary in the job, whether you do a lot of prolonged sitting or even prolonged standing, where there's static muscle contractions happening, it's really important that you are getting good movement and frequent movement to allow blood to flow through the body, okay? So if you could definitely take your breaks, your scheduled breaks, because a lot of us miss those at times as well, right?
Guilty.
Yeah, so we do need those longer break periods for our body to be able to rest and recover, and muscles that have been overworked because of being in one position for a period of time that requires some muscles to work hard, believe it or not. They need blood flow. And when we are not moving, then there's reduced blood flow to those tissues. So movement's important. So take those regularly scheduled breaks. Really try to do a good job of at least taking most of them. You know, the one-offs situations can be understandable, but we're talking about the big picture here. Overall, having good patterns of taking breaks and micro breaks, shorter breaks after 20-30 minutes of sitting or standing statically to move around, walk away from your workstation, get blood flowing by actually moving the body. Stretching as well is important for regaining muscle balance and that sort of thing.
You're going to bring us through a lovely little micro break.
So we'll talk about that then later.
So, okay, so let's go.
Oops.
What?
You clicked on the link.
I did click on the link. Okay, let's go back.
That's fine, though, because that helps us just promote this resource that also Tina is going to be sharing a resource in the handouts, a list of resources, and this is one of them.
This is it here. So Tina, so just give us, you guys, everybody, I should say, a quick overview of our micro breaks resource that Tina does have put in the handouts for us. So that's wonderful.
All right. Okay.
Let me go back.
So we're going to move to, I never mentioned about varying your work activities. What I mean by that is having a mixture of sitting, standing, walking throughout the day. And that helps us to be able to get the blood flowing and that sort of thing.
And that was a lovely little animation of just doing some little.
That's an example. Your tricep. So this little video is an example of something that you can do at your desk.
Exactly.
Really, right? To be able to fit in a bit of a physical activity at work as well. That's some muscle work there, so some muscle strengthening. So if you're struggling to be able to get some strengthening done outside of the workday, then a few body weight exercises like what you just seen there, and also even doing push-ups off of your desk or wall push-ups. Right.
Okay.
All right. So physical jobs. This is where someone's pretty active at their job. They're doing, they're moving around throughout the day, maybe doing some physically demanding work, manual handling activities, you know, handling loads on a regular basis, or just moving around and doing things and taking their body into a lot of different positions throughout the day. So what we want to focus on here in regards to movement is when we're off shift, we need to be making sure, first of all, that we're doing the work that's needed to make us be properly fit for the work that we're doing, right? So we need to be able to have good joint mobility if we're an active individual in the workplace, so that we have good range of motion about our hips and our knees and our ankles and our shoulders, because with those joints, if we have good mobility about those, then we're going to be more likely to use proper body mechanics or good movement patterns when we go about and, you know, get down to a lower level to do something at a lower level or to reach for something. We're going to be more likely to use those joints and less likely to use the back joints, which is what we want to do, because the back is not designed to be bending and twisting regularly, especially the low back. Okay, so having good mobility in your joints, those joints I just mentioned, is important. And if your job is heavy, you know, pretty labor intensive, well, then you also need to make sure that you've got the muscular strength and conditioning to support that type of work. And we have a resource also, a link that provides some healthy exercises, 3 exercises for a healthy back. So core conditioning exercises. And that little video actually talks about why that's important, but stabilizing the spine so that we're able to prevent bending and twisting of the spine when we
Right.
when we do
And that
heavy
resource
activities.
too is.
So that resource is in the
is in
handouts. Yes. All right. But one important thing about being off shift is we want to make sure that we're getting adequate rest in between the shifts, right? So if we are we do a lot of physical work on the job, and then we go home and we do a lot more physical work, maybe out in the garden or doing whatever we're doing, renovations or maybe a second job even, or then we're going to the gym. It's important that we get the exercise in, but we also need to make sure we're getting adequate rest, because rest is where the muscles recover and repair.
Yeah.
And we need that, right? So on the job, from a movement perspective, we want these types of workers to be focusing on warming up the body before they get into the physical work. So doing a couple of circles essentially at these main joints, like some shoulder circles, some hip gate openers, et cetera, ankle circles and that sort of thing. And again, that's covered in a resource.
I even find too, for myself, that even before, when I leave at the end of the day, my desk is in stand position.
Great idea.
And I just do a couple of little arm circles and just little, waist.
That's great. Even
twist waist, just to kind of warm myself up, because you are right. It is not normal to sit in a chair.
Nope. You're right. And if we do
an entire day, right?
That's
so you
right.
really need to warm up.
Absolutely. And we also likely have some muscle imbalances if we are primarily sitting all day long. So a warm up can help with that as well.
Yeah.
But for the office workers, I really focus on doing some tension breaker stretches in your micro breaks. For the physically demanding task type worker, we really want to be enforcing or emphasizing the importance of warming up the body with actually functional movements, right? Like movements that actually are similar to what they would do on the job. So some squats or lunges, shoulder movements like arm swings and circles and that sort of stuff, because we're using our arms all day long, right?
Exactly.
And then also for these workers, when they are doing the lifting and handling, making sure they're using proper lifting techniques and good body mechanics just when they're moving about and doing their things. I have a picture of somebody there with an icon of someone shoveling. There's good technique, but there's bad technique to shovel, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah.
And we have a safety share on that on our website as well. So yeah, lots of external resources or additional resources beyond this webinar.
So now what we've done today as well is that we've done something a little bit different. I guess we've done 3 fantastic podcast interviews with various people as part of, better make closer, hey, as part of Psych Health Week that we had in 2024. So we're just going to take little snippets now of the podcast, just audio snippets, and just give you the opportunity to listen to the great tips and information that each has to share. So the first person is Ryan Osborne, and he's going to give us some great tips on how regular movement and exercise throughout the workday can help us manage not just our stress, but as well as our risk of MSIs.
And again, all movement matters, right? So just literally standing and choosing. So if you're in an office, maybe the washroom or the water cooler that's a floor above or below you, try that instead of the one that might be just inside your desk. If you're home, instead of going up and down the stairs just once, go up and down 3 or 4 times. If your office is downstairs, every time you take the stairs, do 3 or 4 flights in a row so that your heart rate increases. Your muscles of the legs increase. And so I've coached some of my clients that are workers at desks or maybe executives, anything like that, where it really forces them to kind of work many, many hours. And I just look at it and say, it's got to take the path of least resistance. So if I had to say, I do want you to take a 5 or 10 minute break every 30 minutes, that's realistically probably not going to happen. But I'm like, at least on the hour, you put an alarm on your computer or on your watch or your phone that pings off. And the purpose is you've got to actually move. Now, some people like to sit back in their chair and they might do some deep breathing, and then that's fine too, but that's going to be a great stress reducer. But I try to look at that and say, well, how can we get some breath increasing but by also maybe movement or exercising. So that's why I call it micro workout. And that if you did 10 desk push-ups or 10 squats or held a plank on the floor, doing some jumping jacks, or just marching, literally just standing and marching with your knees bringing up to your chest, okay, and you're moving your arms as well, like you're kind of doing a full-on march. And if you were doing that, I'll just say regularly, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to get a significant boost in just energy because, of course, blood flow is going to have to increase circulation. You're going to get a little bit more clear. If your breath increases, then just that natural increasing of your oxygen capacity will help give a little bit of calmness. And you are getting steps if that's something that you might want to track, fine and dandy, or you're challenging your muscles if you say do something like those are the basic push-ups or squats. So again, when you just look at it for what it is at that one time, well, I'm only doing 5 push-ups. Each time I do a little micro break or micro workout. But if you did that on the hour, well, then if it's an 8-hour day, that's 40 push-ups. 40 push-ups, maybe you can't even do 40 push-ups straight out, but 40 push-ups a day, or then 40 or 50 squats a day, that's going to be significant because if you can't get, say, any other workout or strength training in a traditional workout time, but you only are doing these little micro breaks, well, is that better than doing nothing or what you were doing if you weren't doing anything? Significantly. So the micro workouts, I look at it and say what the average person is probably doing, and also what is the path of least resistance. We know that sleep is clearly one of the biggest influencers of managing your stress. And we also know on the other end that exercise, regular movement and or exercise, has a significant benefit to helping you get better sleep. So when you compare, if I'm going to have more movement, which causes me to have better sleep, which then helps me to manage my stress, now you have all the reasons to exercise and be more active.
Your Zen place is the gym. My Zen place is outdoors, walking my dog.
Yep.
Just goes to show how we're all different.
Absolutely.
And we have to start with where we are and what we enjoy.
Yep.
And once we start doing things throughout our day that we enjoy, then that's going to increase the likelihood that we're going to keep moving through our day.
I agree.
Okay, just love that. I just love how Ryan talks about, you know, just taking all these little pieces and putting them together, right? To make it look not as daunting.
Yeah,
And they're so
agree.
beneficial.
And I know that Ryan is very big on stacking habits.
Again,
He's very big on stacking habits. So, you know, take something that you already do and now associate something to do with movement or physical activity to that, right? So you always have to brush your teeth at night. Actually, this is something that I've done for probably about 20 years now. When I brush my teeth, once my teeth are brushed, I do push-ups.
Really?
Yeah, and I just got into this thing that I started doing it, like 25 actually. And at 25, I was doing 25 push-ups. Before I go to bed, at 26, I was doing 26. And I've done it ever since. That's stacking habits, right?
So you may not have to do 56.
You're telling your age.
Start that
so anyway,
next
some
night.
nice tips there.
Yeah,
And
I really like that.
I do encourage you to, the link is there for that podcast. There's lots more great tips in that podcast episode. So I encourage you to check it out on your own time.
Well, I'm going to start doing those push-ups, Cheryl. Okay, so that is, but you are right. I mean, things that you do on a daily basis is just fitting them all in there together, right? Whenever I'll get to this part of the discussion later. But anyway, great tip there. So mindfulness, you know, being more mindful in our day-to-day activities that we do. So what does mindfulness mean? What it really means is paying close attention to where you are in the present moment without judging where you are, being fully present and accepting things as they are, right? Mindfulness is something that we can incorporate into our daily activities. After Cheryl finishes brushing her teeth, she does push-ups. While I'm brushing my teeth, what I normally do is I just do a kind of like a, I guess I'm just paying really close attention to what I'm doing and
being present.
being present, right? I'm trying not to think about, what happened during the day. I'm not worrying about what's coming up. It's just being present, saying, I'm brushing my teeth right now, and just paying attention to even the bristles on the teeth, listening to the water running, right? So, 30 seconds of mindfulness right there, a minute. Happy birthday to you is how long we're supposed to be brushing our teeth for.
Right.
But even those little things. So there are various ways, of course, that we can practice mindfulness. I do it when I'm brushing my teeth. You can also do a mindful meditation, right? So, I mean, this could be actually, going on YouTube and viewing a meditation where you lie down, you sit down, could be a walking meditation. Often I use the Calm app. Often I do a walking meditation, especially if I'm up in the woods or hiking with my dogs. Mindful breathing. I do this when I'm at a stoplight, and we know how many stoplights we encounter on a daily basis, especially here in the St. John's area. Mindful movement. This is where I use my Calm app, and just listen to the walking meditation. It could be anywhere from 5 minutes to like a half hour. But with the mindful movement, it's just really paying attention to how you're feeling at that moment and letting go of those areas of our body that we tend to carry stress. For me, it's my shoulders, it's my upper body. So just paying attention and really letting go. Mindfulness in everyday life, the teeth brushing, feeling the bristles on your teeth, listening to the water running. That is all different ways that you can fit mindfulness in what you do every day. A body scan. I do this quite often in the morning because I guess with my chronic pain that I've been experiencing for 21 years now, I really need to pay attention to what parts of my body are the most impacted on that day. So just doing a very quick body scan to identify those areas that you're holding that stress, and consciously looking at ways that you can let go through your mindful meditation, through your breathing. Loving kindness. Basically what this is, this is where the non-judgmental piece, I guess, of mindfulness really comes in. If you're having that kind of moment or that kind of day where you're perhaps not in the best frame of mind, just not getting down on yourself for being in that frame of mind, accepting it, looking at why you're feeling that way, and looking at ways that you can kind of, micro break time, ways that you can kind of move yourself out of that headspace. Visualization, just one of the things that I like to visualize is, and there's always pictures, I guess, on my monitor screen of mountains, beaches, just visualizing places. It doesn't have to be the physical picture, just seeing those places in your head that bring you joy, that bring you peace, and bring you relaxation. And that 3-minute breathing space. I won't talk too much about this because we are, as we get further into the presentation, we're just going to do a 1-minute, 11-second breathing activity, actually. And it's just meant to show you the benefits of deliberate deep breathing. So Cheryl is going to bring us through a very quick micro break now.
Yeah, so I'm actually just going to focus on the neck and shoulders right now. This is an area where we do tend to carry a lot of tension. And so I'll do just maybe a stretch for each one of them or a couple. And then I'm going to give everybody a second to just move around, shake their legs. Okay, so actually maybe let's start with that right now. Deanne's raising the table. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's the noise that you're hearing here. So let's just shake out our legs, shake out our arms, stand up first of all if you're still in your chair and you're able, and just move the body a little bit, get the blood flowing there. All right, so for the neck, what we're going to do first is standing nice and tall. We're going to look over our shoulder, so rotate your neck to the right, we'll say, and over as far as you can, but without experiencing pain. So you feel a little bit of a stretch, but it's a gentle stretch, and then look down a little. This helps to stretch your scalene muscles as well in your neck, so it just gives you a little bit more of a stretch when you look down. And then come back to center and turn to your left side. Look over your shoulder or as best you can, and then down. You can actually get a little more of a stretch if you brought your arms behind your body, behind your back there, and pulled down on a wrist. So let's just say if now we're looking to the left, so I'm going to use my left hand and pull down on my right arm, and it just gives me a greater stretch on the right back right hand side of my neck. Yeah. All right, so that's that one. And then for the shoulders, a very real common one, which I don't like to see people do who are using computers a lot, because we are already working with things in front of the body, so we tend to be tight in the chest. But I often see people bringing their arm across their chest and just holding their arm. I would prefer that you actually bring your arm back so that now you're stretching your chest. So what you can do is stand with your elbow up at about shoulder height or so, and then lean it into the wall, hold it against the wall, I guess, and then lean forward so that you're getting that stretch in the front part of your chest there. Yeah, or lean into the doorway. That's another way you can do it. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, so that's two quick ones, but there's lots more stretches that you can do for a micro break in the handout. Wonderful. So now we're moving along to workspace setup. Oh, let me get them. Oops, you just did it. Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
All right, so what we want to talk about here is trying to manage the physical risk factors for musculoskeletal injuries in the workplace, right? So the risk factors are listed on the slide. The main ones being force, repetitive movements, awkward or sustained postures, static postures is another way of saying it. Those are the main ones, okay? Main four. Awkward postures and static postures are really almost two. They're the most common ones that are causing the majority of the injuries, but also some workers are exposed to contact stress quite a bit, or the environmental factors like vibration, poor lighting, all that. Essentially, what we want to do is try to eliminate those hazards where they're present, and if it's not possible to eliminate them, because sometimes it is pretty impossible to eliminate them full out, then we want to reduce the exposure to those risk factors. So what we want to be looking at is to reduce your exposure, you're going to try to reduce the number of risk factors present. So if you've got, say, in the office environment, if you've got repetitive movements happening and awkward postures, this is shown on the screen.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. Ooh,
so if you've got multiple risk factors, just by simply, or maybe not simply, but by eliminating a risk factor, then you're reducing your risk, okay? Or reduce the magnitude of the actual risk factor. So if you have a pretty extensive, awkward wrist posture, because maybe your keyboard is just way too high or way too low, putting the keyboard at a more acceptable level, a more proper level, would reduce the amount of wrist bending potentially or extending, and that reduces your risk. So just look at ways that you can reduce the awkwardness of the posture, reduce the weight of a load to reduce the force, for example, or also the duration or frequency of exposure to those risk factors, okay? So we've talked about micro breaks a lot now. A micro break is a way to break up exposure to prolonged risk factors.
Yeah.
So that's a way to help reduce your risk.
And as you're talking, I'm really thinking about neutral postures Our body likes to be in neutral posture
It
for
does.
everything. And I'm going to put a plug in now for our free online MSI prevention course. You can register through that, through the CTR. That gives a really nice overview of neutral postures and the importance of us working in neutral posture.
Absolutely. So I just want to mention too that because there's probably a fair number of office individuals sitting in on this webinar today, I suspect anyways. And in the office environment, you know, working with a computer, that is an environment where workers at the worker level, there's a fair bit of control. We have a fair bit of control over how we can manage the risk factors. You know, for example, your chair, if there's adjustment features on your chair, then use those adjustment features, right? And if your chair doesn't adjust properly, well, then report that to your supervisor. The placement of your keyboard and your mouse, you probably have some wiggle room there. The placement of your monitor, is it directly in front of you or is it off to the side? If you're using two monitors, well, then where should the second monitor be and how should they be lined up? And again, we have so many resources on all this stuff, but that's something that's within your control. How often you take your micro breaks, if you're going to do your stretches, right? If you're going to alternate your tasks. So lots of opportunity to
there is
manage
our resources.
And yep, so these are links to resources related, a lot of them related to the office environment, but proper sitting position, proper standing position, doesn't have to be the office environment at all, right? This could be on a manufacturing line or station, right? So yeah, lots of links there on how to help you set up your workspace. And as I said, talk to your supervisor if you have any concerns about MSI hazards, you know, things that are just outside of your control. Maybe you just don't have the proper equipment, you don't have, you know, you require a lifting assist, you know, assistive device or something like that. Or your workspace, you can't get your monitor in the right place because of the cords, then report those types of things to your supervisor to have that addressed.
Right.
And also signs and symptoms. If you have early signs and symptoms of MSI, definitely report those to your supervisor because you can prevent a full-blown MSI if you just address things early and the proper control measures are implemented, you know, timely enough. All right, so we're going to move on to healthy eating habits. And we're going to pretty quickly move into the video clip here, but I just want to say, you know, nutrients in food, we probably don't think of those. I forgot to turn off snooze. Okay. Nutrients in food are the biological reason why we eat, right? And I think we sometimes forget that. Food is our fuel for our mind, our body, you know, our energy, both physically and mentally, and our wellness as a whole. So let's go right to this video or podcast clip where Amanda Janes, a registered holistic nutritionist and owner of Concept Nutrition, she discusses how fueling your body with healthy food can help you manage stress that we encounter daily.
Okay.
When our body responds to stress, it mounts a response. We hear it called the fight or flight response. And it takes nutrients in order to do that because your body is synthesizing chemicals like hormones and neurotransmitters, and you need building blocks. So nutrition is the building blocks of that hormonal response. And a lack of nutrients or even poor gut health, Deanne, can affect our mood, our concentration, and our response and perception of stress stimuli. So you need more nutrients during times of stress, and your body has to make all those extra things that helps you deal with stress. But the right nutrients help your body turn on and off the stress response, because we want to be stressed in an appropriate amount that helps us deal with the situation. And sometimes if we don't have enough nutrients, that actually creates more stress for our body. Nutrients not only help you deal with the stress because you need more at the time of stress, but they also help you increase your resilience to stress, because when they become deficient, then we're more vulnerable or prone to the physiological and emotional effects of stress. Your body burns a lot of B vitamins, vitamin C, magnesium. These are vitamins and minerals that you can get from brightly colored fruits and vegetables. You want to include as many fruits and veggies as you can. But your body also needs a lot of good, lean, quality protein and a lot of healthy fat. And most of us don't get enough healthy fat. So by including things like fish, nuts, seeds, yogurt, eggs, these are good quality sources of protein that your body can take and synthesize those hormones that it needs to deal with fight or flight response. When our body responds.
Okay, and I just want to add to that as well from a musculoskeletal health perspective that healthy nutrients facilitates muscle repair and recovery, organ and cellular functioning, body composition, reduce strain then on your soft tissues, on your joints, and it helps preserve your bone mass and lean tissue, right? So, and actually, I'm just going to add to that too. If you think about the MSI risk factors, like repetitive movements, for example, right? Those risk factors create inflammation in the body.
Yeah.
And the foods we eat can also create more inflammation in the body. And what happens then? So like if we're eating a lot of sugary foods, fast foods, that kind of stuff. So then we create an inflammatory environment in our body. And what happens then is that this inflammatory environment is going to impact our ability for our body to recover, like the muscles to recover from the exposures throughout the workday and throughout all other aspects of our lives. And healing, if we're injured, it will impact our ability to heal and probably the rate of healing and our work performance, both physically and mentally. Yeah. Okay.
So helpful tips then for healthy eating habits.
Yeah, I think we just skipped over
Did we?
Yep.
Okay.
Breakfast and lunch. Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So some tips here.
Having some good high protein breakfasts are really helpful when you're going through stressful times. And they're practical too, because they're going to keep you full. They're going to keep you full. They're going to keep your concentration up, your mental energy and stamina there, your mood level. Like these are the basic building blocks for good mental health. And if you have a high protein breakfast versus a high sugar breakfast, you're going to have nice level blood sugar. And that's really, really important for good cognitive function.
So what does the high protein breakfast look like?
That might be some boiled eggs, some nuts and seeds. It could be cottage cheese or Greek yogurt. And they can be simple and quick as well, right? Very things that are easy to meal prep ahead of time. Planned lunch can keep you, if we front load our nutrition in the early part of our day and our breakfast and our lunch and be very concentrated in what we put in there, that's what's going to set us up best for not having cravings in the nighttime, being able to manage our portions at night, being able to get home from work and have the energy to cook a healthy supper.
Exactly.
But when we're running on empty all day, it's really difficult to do the things that we need to do, practically speaking, but also nutritionally speaking, in one meal. You can't get it done in one meal, especially if you're undergoing a stressful time. Lunch is a good time to get some veggies in. And first of all, you can utilize leftovers, last night's supper. You can make it a little fresh by adding some salad or some veggie sticks to it. You want to get your protein in again. So protein, healthy fat, and fiber. Those are the three things that you want to incorporate into every meal, but especially into your lunch, because that's going to get you through the afternoon to avoid the 3 p.m. slump. And it's a good idea to not include a lot of refined carbohydrates in your lunch, right? And that's where we tend to see sandwiches. And the refined carbohydrates are going to be what drives our blood sugar up. And it's exactly what you talked about, the rise in that energy and then the slump that follows. And that's where your 3 p.m., oh my goodness, I need a granola bar comes from, right? So trying to avoid as much as possible the refined carbohydrates in your lunch and stick to your protein and veggies. That's an excellent strategy.
Yes, and then just to add to that too, processed foods and the fast foods, the deep fried foods that are high in salt, high in unhealthy fats, and high in sugar, that's all inflammatory ingredients as well, right? So we're not going to avoid them altogether, but we should be looking at consuming them in moderation, limiting them. All right, so there's some more tips here on this slide. I'm not going to go through all these. This is something, you know, you can print off the presentation
Yeah.
and keep with you. But it's just really reiterating what Amanda just said about concentrating on fiber, protein, healthy fats. Fruits and veggies give you a lot of fiber as well. This is really key for both the mental and the physical
And
health
having that plan.
side of things.
And you only need to have
yeah.
a plan for one day.
Yeah, she
Right?
talks about in her podcast. Yes, just plan for one day.
And we have one more. So how
Yeah.
important is hydration? And what types of, I guess, liquids, fluids should we be consuming during the workday?
That is a super question. And actually, I would say it's one of the most important factors in feeling well and feeling energetic. Dehydration actually increases our body's levels of cortisol. Cortisol is our main stress hormone. So when we're in a dehydrated state, it affects our brain function, our concentration, mood, but it also actually physically increases the cortisol level in our body. So drink water throughout the day. It's better not to guzzle it with your mealtime because that can kind of suppress your digestion, and you don't want to do that either. Plus, you want that fluid throughout the day. It's what, you know, water is what transports nutrients around our body. It's what helps them pass in and out of our cells. It keeps us healthy and feeling well. So while coffee can perk you up, it's dehydrating in the long run, and it actually can have nervous system effects, which can increase feelings of stress, and it can impact your sleep as well. And all of those things together can be a little bit of a perfect storm when it comes to stress. The nutritional habit tends to be to reach for that coffee. So firstly, reaching for water as a go-to, you can put a little lemon or a bit of cranberry juice or something like that in it. Or if you want, you know, a little bedazzle, you can have sparkling water as a little pick-me-up. But really, water is best. Just plain water is best. It's what your body needs. But also you can incorporate some herbal teas, right? Like green tea has properties that are relaxing and mentally stimulating, and it has much less caffeine than coffee.
So how important is, so how,
Oops. All right. So yeah, and I just want to add to that about the musculoskeletal lens. With water, it helps lubricate our joints, right? Gets the stiffness out of our joints. It reduces swelling, painful, achy joints, and it reduces muscle cramping. So there's a lot of musculoskeletal benefits to it as well. And again, more tips on the slide here as a takeaway, but I just want to add one that I try to do myself, and that is at the beginning of my day, before I even take a first sip of coffee, I'll have a glass of water. So it's like,
I need to start doing that.
Yeah, and I make that like a non-negotiable, right? It's before I have my coffee, because I'm going to really enjoy my coffee in the morning. It's the only time I have it, but I'm going to have a water first.
That's a good tip. I'm going to take that one away. Okay, so now we're going to talk about stress management, right? And like everything that we've talked about so far is really, really important for self-care. When we regularly take care of ourselves in healthy and vibrant, I guess, ways that keep us healthy, keep us active, keep us happy, that is one of the biggest tips for managing our stress. We know that if we are experiencing high levels of stress, it is going to increase the muscle tension in our body. When we have that, when that stress sticks around and when we don't have those healthy ways of managing our stress, that could lead to chronic tension. And chronic tension, of course, is associated with low back pain, pain in the upper extremities, the neck, the shoulders, the tops of the arms, headaches that are associated with tension, as well as migraines. So some helpful tips, I guess, develop that self-care plan. We have a guide for self-care on our website to help you in 5 steps develop that plan. But one of the big things that has really helped me is, starting the day earlier, right? Creating that me time. My day usually starts at 5:30 a.m. Sometimes I push it to 6, but that is the time that I know that I'm just going to have an hour or an hour and a half to myself. Before I leave work at the end of the day, doesn't matter if it's the office or at home, I always have my desk organized, everything put away. It's a clean slate then when I start in the morning. Before I finish work for the end of the day, I also prioritize my to-do list. So I know that in the morning, this is my priority and this is what I need to start looking at. I know that when we're in an office environment, it is really difficult not to have interruptions. But, all of us working together, respecting each other's space, respecting each other's time for doing work, is a great way for us to come together and write some team norms or team rules. Doing one thing at a time. I mean, I think we're living kind of in the time and in society where we're always multitasking, right? But it's something that I thought that I could do at one time, but I've realized that you can't multitask. It's important that you prioritize and that you focus and concentrate on one task at a time. And you know what? There is no such thing as being perfect. Not going to be perfect. We're all different people. We all look at things differently. What's perfect to me might not be perfect for you, and vice versa. So keep it real, keep it ideal, and keep that perfectionism in check. Clarify expectations that others have of you, as well as clarify the expectations that you have of yourself. And that really goes back to the perfectionism. Setting clear boundaries, of course, between work and life. With technology, it seems that our lives after work have been sort of invaded by devices, by emails, by text and whatever. I think that we should all be doing what the province of Ontario is doing, which is they are putting a I'm going to call it a law in place, which is the disconnect. Set clear start and end times for tasks. Turn off work notifications during downtime, even during your break times and your micro break. We work with Outlook here. I turn off all of my notifications for my emails, check them first thing in the morning, and then I check them at lunch, and then I check them at the end of the day because it's just too distracting for me. And if at all possible, separate your physical spaces for work and non-work activities, and make sure that you report any stress hazards to your supervisor, your manager, or your employer. And cutting back on our caffeine. I mean, caffeine is a stimulant. It will, when we have too much for our system, it will cause some physiological responses in the body. Staying hydrated, of course, planning our lunch and our snacks, walking at lunchtime, walking at break times. I like to walk around the parking lot for 15 minutes during my breaks, taking those regular micro breaks every 20 to 30 minutes. And using our calendar blocks. I mean, in my Outlook calendar, I do have downtime scheduled. I schedule it in there, and that is the time that I am going to treat myself and look after not just my musculoskeletal health, but my mental health as well. Some other things that we can do, music. Music is therapy for a reason. It helps us to sort of disconnect from everything that has happened throughout the day. Our sleep, Cheryl is going to be covering that. Our exercise, we make exercise a regular part of your life and do something that you know that you will continue to do and build that habits. A digital detox. nights. That is so important. You know, we can spend 7 to 8, 9 hours a day on our devices. Plan to reduce that by half and get away from some of the negativity as well that we can see in social media and online. And if it gets to the point where we're just having a difficult time, managing the stress that we experience, reach out to a professional. And I will be outlining some of those resources later. So as promised, let's follow the directions now in this 1 minute, 11-second video on deliberate deep breathing. Like I said earlier, I do this at every stoplight. And it makes a huge difference in your day. And sometimes as well, I'll also incorporate it when I'm doing my micro breaks. So everybody follow the directions of our narrator.
The hardest thing is to get started. You have.
He says,
What is going on?
5. Just let it go.
I skipped it. No.
The hardest thing is to get started. You have
Yeah.
to get it.
There we go. Nope.
No, it's not working.
Sorry, everybody. That is just obviously not working. I thought it was the embedded video, but it's not. But anyway, anybody
Where
who
can they find that?
participates, they can find that on Headspace. And all they have to do is just Google Headspace, and it's right there on YouTube. So Cheryl is
Okay.
going to do some sleep.
All right, so just briefly, it's a fundamental or foundational pillar for human health. And we tend to focus a lot on exercise and diet, right? People do. But chances are, if you're not getting enough quality rest, you're not going to be succeeding in the exercise and the diet realm either. So maybe even more important than all of it, so that we can be more successful in all the other things. Sleep is where our body and our mind recover from all of the events of the day. It's
Muscle regeneration.
absolutely
tissue
body
repair.
systems and processes all get restored. And yeah, we just get re-energized, right? So let's move along there to these are some signs of fatigue that you should be aware if you're look for them in yourself essentially, and be aware. One big one that sometimes I have a tendency to just I get into something and I can really overwork something I'm passionate about or really interested in. Just ADHD in me there. So for me, I recognize fatigue in myself when I'm just not feeling refreshed when I get up in the morning and I see a period of that, a bit of a trend. And even when I'm getting up, I'm not refreshed. I'm not. It's throughout my day. I'm not feeling a period of being refreshed. But yeah, poor concentration, muscle weakness, and soreness because the tissues just hadn't had enough time to recover, right? And more. Yeah, so a few tips for sleep is to try to get a good routine on the go. Have an actual schedule for sleep and time and wake time. We are pretty good at setting an alarm clock to get ready for work, right? But do we set a clock or an alarm for bedtime? I wonder. Do you?
I do.
Yeah,
I
so
get
I've
my
tried
sleep
that
reminder
recently, and it
at
is helping.
9:15.
So the picture actually is mine.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it. It's hard to get. So my 9 o'clock is my wind down time.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to be able to give myself at least an hour because it takes me a while to wind down. But yeah, I'm still trying to perfect that. It was going to be a while. No electronics 1 hour before sleep time, and for some people, perhaps it might need to be a little longer than that. No heavy meals, 2 to 3 hours. This is just sort of average, roughly, 2 to 3 hours for you. Perhaps it needs to be a little longer than that. Perhaps 1 hour won't affect you too much. But for some, that may be a help. Pleasant sleep environment, a cool, dark room, 60 to 67 degrees is pretty a comfortable level for most. have an actual mattress and pillow and sheets that suit you. And there's resources online where you can get some guidance on finding those things that suit you, whether or not you're a side sleeper, a back sleeper, belly sleeper, that sort of thing. More exposure to natural light. How many of us come in? It's coming up now, right? Where we're soon going to be going to work, for me anyway, who's on the, the typical daytime schedule, going to work and it's almost still darkness, right? I get up in the dark, and then when I come home or when I leave work in the day, the office, it's dark again.
Exactly.
And so I'm getting very little light unless I really take advantage of the micro breaks and the breaks. And that can help your sleep. Moving and exercising more, reporting fatigue hazards to your employer as well, if that is an issue in your particular type of work. And there's sleep doctors, or even just speaking to your own doctor if you're trying all these tips and it's just not working. And another topic for another day would be on shift workers. Resources. I have some resources. We have some resources in the handout for shift workers too.
Okay, so
I think we're going to actually skip this.
well, you're gonna skip this one, 'cause I
this
think
video.
that we've kind of reviewed all those anyway.
Yeah,
haven't we?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna basically finish up here now. So one of the main things as well is that, we really have to normalize asking for help, right? And it's important that we understand that asking for help, it's not a sign of weakness. And for whatever reason in our society, reaching out, asking for help, asking for support from others is really viewed as a weakness. But, I'm going to turn that around and I'm going to say it's not. It's actually a strength. It shows how well we know each other and how strong we are in being able to sort of, bust through those barriers that society has put on us to reach out for that support. So don't be afraid to reach out. Like reaching out for help is no different. I guess the thing is that, it's all comes down to early intervention, right? We report early signs and symptoms of MSIs. So we don't want to sort of, sweep all of the stress that we're experiencing under the rug, because it is going to build up. So don't be afraid to reach out and early on in your, I guess, stressful situations. Figure out what you need by exploring available options. We'll go through some of the resources that are available to the province, really. When you are reaching out for help, especially if you're reaching out to your manager or your supervisor, be very specific in what it is that you're seeking support in. Offer some possible solutions, things that have worked in the past, things that are working right now, but you need to make them more of a longer term solution. Look at if anything that you're doing at the moment are actually working for you. And, if they're not working, then looking at some other things that may not, or looking at some other things that might work as well. It's just not quitting and always looking for those other options and seeking professional support as well. Now, in the province, we are blessed that we have some great online resources. There is Bridge the Gap. There's 2 different areas for adults and for youth. So please visit that website. In Canada as well, I guess almost a year ago now, we put the Suicide Crisis Helpline 988 in place. You can call or text anytime during the day. So if you know or are concerned about somebody who you feel is thinking about suicide, please, have them or you please reach out for help. Here in Newfoundland as well, 811 is the health line. They have some great advice, practitioners, nurses, I had to call there last week myself, and they have some great services there. So do not hesitate to call 811. LifeWise as well, they have trained peer supporters in their warm line. They also, I guess probably coming up to 2 years now, they have a first responders warm line. So this is for people who identify as a first responder, not just, people who wear uniforms and sirens on top of their car. It could be anybody who experiences a traumatic event, first aider, social worker, nurse, teacher. Anytime that you need help with a traumatic situation, please reach out, and they have trained peer supporters. Now, this really is, I guess, specific to the employer. When we were talking about resources, one of the main resources that we put in the handout was a link to the CSA standard for psychological health and safety. These 8 bullets really cover off all of the requirements of that standard. That standard is free to download, and it is something that is being used by many workplaces in the province. So I guess on a high level, as an employer, as a manager, encourage open and honest and respectful communication, promote work-life balance, provide resources and support. So, making all of these resources available in a certain area on your intranet, in the workplace, having that open door policy, and providing the support to employees that when you know that they need it. Recognize and appreciate employees through reward and recognition. Educate and train your managers and your supervisors in, how to effectively support people, not just in mental health, but as well as in musculoskeletal injury prevention. Provide professional development opportunities for all staff. Promote inclusivity, diversity and equity, and encourage peer support and collaboration.
Right. Okay, so this is just a little takeaway for you, My Wellness Toolbox. I encourage you to, if you have learned something today that you'd like to try, or even just, things from your life experiences that you've done in the past and that worked but you've forgotten about, list some things that you would like to try again. And you can continue to add to this list and cross out the things that you try that just don't work for you as well.
Or once they become a habit, then you can cross them out because they're a habit.
Right. Absolutely. So small steps, try one or a couple of small things at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself, and add as these new things become habits.
I got to add the push-ups.
Yeah. All right. So just in conclusion, I think what I can take away from this presentation for sure is that there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of overlap between these tip areas. If we exercise, it helps us sleep. If we sleep well, it helps us with the exercise and the nutrition piece. If we get good, healthy nutrients, then it helps us respond more positively to stressful stimuli and helps us become more resilient to stress. Managing stress then also helps us to be able to sleep better. So there's a lot of overlap. So I think that, if we can just take even a few of the tips that we covered today and implement them.
And start small.
Start small. And
as
just
long as
keep
you start.
building. It's a building block type thing. All right. So just want to let you know that we have a new Signal podcast episode, and it's on manual material handling, which we all do throughout the day, whether we are at work and we do it at work or we're at home. We lift and move boxes and carry groceries and do gardening and all that kind of stuff. So myself and 2 colleagues of mine, Kathleen and Colleen, on this episode, we discuss the basics of manual material handling, share relatable stories, and we review strategies for smart handling in everyday life. So I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, scan that code and it'll bring you right to it. And if we also scan this code, this is part of our regular webinar series, I guess. Every week during the year, basically, we deliver webinars such as this. So you can scan that code. That will take you to our events and our schedule where you can register right there. And myself and the other OSH educational consultant is available to come to your workplace, as well as do a virtual presentation. And Cheryl as well. Cheryl
Absolutely.
does make some regular visits. And
Our services are free.
and they are free.
Yep.
And she does regular MSI, I guess, consultations with employers and workplaces as well. So email workshops@workplacenl.ca for more information. And thank you so much for joining us here today. We have run over time. It's now 11:11. Tina, are there any questions? If looks like there's no questions. Let's see. Nope, there's no questions. Perfect.
So should you have any questions after we sign off here now, you can always email safety@workplacenl.ca, and one of our team members will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah. So everybody have a safe and healthy day.
Thank you.